Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's Eddie Marcus here again. This is a Saturday on this beautiful August past the September day. Yes, I got a lot of stuff I want to say to you. You know, they was talking about peaceful protest. They've been talking about it a lot, and I've been giving it some thought about peaceful protest. On the one hand, you want to say peaceful protest won't get you anything. Well, I guess that could be true depending on the type of peaceful protest you incited. Well, it seems though that the thing that you're trying to do is to draw attention, trying to focus on a particular situation, subject or matter. And you have to do what you have to do to garner that attention, but you also have to be smart about it if you can. If there's no other way but to be dumb about it, then you have to be dumb about it. But the peaceful protest that will get you that positive stuff is the thing that would make your enemy act out of order, make them become the villains, make them become the peace breakers. Like in Dr. King's day, they were peaceful protesters. They marched, they sang songs, they knelt down and they prayed. And then the ugly part came when the dogs and the hoes came and the beat downs and these kinds of things came. And the news became almost an everyday thing, and people began to see what they had not seen before, or at least at this magnitude. And so it brought about an action that we all know what outcome is. We still second-class citizens, but it did a little bit. And I'll say that again, it did a little bit. But a little bit is better than nothing. Peaceful protest. I used to say that peaceful protest was a design thing to keep your mind calm. If they could talk you into being peaceful for a minute, calm you down for a minute, then they might even be able to do something which has no real consequence as far as they're concerned, but a very small benefit for you, so you can feel satisfied. And that'll allow us to go maybe another 100 years as second-class citizens, if they can buy us that way. Peaceful protest, but when you burn, when you destroy, then you're doing that which means something to them. It is a tool that they use when they want to master some change. Like take a person's land or turn them into slaves or take over another government. Stuff like this that they do, war, bomb, and destroy. And yet, when it comes down to being available to you to exact the kind of changes you want, they pass a law that says it's illegal. Why? To keep you in bondage. These are the kinds of things that work. Remember, you heard the story about Black Wall Street? Black people standing on their own bootstraps, removed them, and took off. And it messed somebody's head up. So they had to do something about it. And what did they do about it? You heard the story. They destroyed it, set it aflame. What does that mean? That means it wipes out all your work you've been doing. This is what they were trying to do. So, if you were going to fight them and you don't have any guns, then they have told you the blueprint would be to make sure that everything that they do, as far as using their weapons against you, destroy their own stuff that means something to them, and you use the match. The Bible said the next time it's going to be by fire, set it on fire. Then you're destroying everything. And you will see the failure of man, the total failure of man. Somebody might be left, and maybe they will give God glory by working together, caring about one another, and loving one another. You got your president who is so power hunger. Right now they're talking about him and what he is saying about the military, what he has been saying about vets, starting with McCain. They say he really hated McCain. He didn't hide it. He did all these things just to ignore or to distract the fact that he is who he is, and that's the way of the world. And so as you take your time and try to make sense of what is absolutely essential, what is necessary to bring about the kind of changes that you really want, the kind of changes that matter, then you got to really get outside of yourself. Because everything we basically know and are concerned about is self-preservation. Why? Because that's human nature. We've all been taught this. This is what it means. Now, when it comes down to something deeper than that, then it has to come from a source that most of us are unable to identify and say that we are familiar with it. And that's trying to be something out of the ordinary. Calling on a vision you can't see, you can't touch, you can't feel, you can't conjure up with your emotion, and yet you accept it because the reality of existence. You know that human beings, you know that man had nothing to do with it. And so you accept the fact that you exist by that same power, and if you exist by that power, then only that power has the authority to control and manipulate you, and you only have obligation to that power that is essentially your parent, if you want to look at it like that. On the other hand, when Trump talks about it, he was saying he didn't like losers. And since he didn't like losers, he would not want to see them in public, and he's thinking that the American people would not like to see them in public for the same reason. They represent losing, not even giving any consideration for the fact of the commitment that they give to the cause by committing themselves to stand and represent whatever the ideology might be, whatever the philosophy might be, whatever the plan might be, not even really questioning whether it's proper or whether it's not, but just being obedient, being what they call patriotic. Now, when Trump said this thing about that perhaps the military people are crazy, in essence, for doing the things that they do, I'm sure many of us have used those same expressions. I know I have. I've said oftentimes that guys who go to the military got to be out of their minds. I'm sure my reason for saying it is totally different from that from which Trump. But not being able to cite Trump's, I can tell you mine. I said to this, and I say it to military, I've said it before, and I say it to you today. The best plan that I know of is the one that I advocate every day. But notwithstanding, the system is as it is. And I say under these terms, anybody that would stand up and represent a nation, whether it's America, the United States, or anywhere on earth, if you would stand up and grab a gun or weapon and go out committing yourself an allegiance to take, to kill, to destroy, and even be killed for a cause, for a nation, then as far as this nation is concerned, there is no greater individual. There's no more special individual than that individual who was committed and engaged themselves in such an activity. And the evidence and appreciation for what they do is simply you make sure that they haven't problems in their daily life. They don't have to worry about food, clothing, and shelter. That's guaranteed to them. They don't have to worry about availability to education, unlimited and unrestricted, health care from the womb to the tomb, and a career of their own choosing. These, my friends, who have protected you and made sure that the freedoms that you enjoy, privileged as you are, fought and died, that you can do the things, you goddamn right you should treat them right. They should be number one. And I say, if they are not treated number one, then they got to be out of their minds to let you get away with it. Now, that's my reason. Okay, but I didn't come here to talk about that today. I came here to talk about change. I came here to talk about the struggles that black people have to go through. And I say, when we talk about the Republican Party, when we talk about the Democratic Party, you ask yourselves, have any of them made any real major changes in your life? I mean, can you say that they've made any big difference in the structure of the entire population? I mean, can you really, really say that and mean it? Point it out, show it, distinguish between. And I'm sure you can. So then you ask yourself, then what's the difference? What's the difference between the two? They both maintain the status quo. And that is that those things that are so essential that we just got through saying that these military guys should get. And what is the difference? Here's a thought I'd like to add to that. When we talked about the Republicans and we talked about the Democrats, we said we're representing something of the same coin. Or should I say, each side of the same coin. But I left something out that supposedly is in the middle. And that middle should be filled, my friends, with what we have in our society, which has already distinguished itself as being that voice, and that is the religious community. That is what we call a church. That is what we call, basically in America, Christianity. Supposedly in the middle. That glue that binds these two sides and keep them from going the wrong way. Lead them and guide them down the path of righteousness. But tell me, when have you seen that? When you see thousands of institutions that supposed to represent the same source, and they are so divided they can't even come together. They can't speak with one voice. So how can they draw anybody to a single path? They can't do it. So what you got, the same thing that holds the Republican Party and the Democratic Party together, which is what? The center. What is that center? It's the religious part, the church part. It's all going together because people do not know the truth. And until we can recognize that they don't know the truth, they will never do those things that leads to freedom. So how do you distinguish between the truth and that which is not? Well, the truth is that everybody requires basically the same essentials for survival and any measure of life. I just articulated that with those military guys. Why? Because we are all here for the same reasons that I just articulated earlier. And that being the case, if that is being fulfilled, there will be no pain, there will be no suffering, there will be no terrorism, there will be no war. These fights won't be going on. And so we have their life. But on the other hand, when things are not, this is where I'm saying the difference. Because right away you're basically trying to insinuate that somebody is more superior than another. And the way you determine that by your own estimation is that its value, what you have, assets, equitable. And so in order to get that, you got to step outside the boundaries that maintains perfection. You got to cheat. You got to lie. You got to steal. You got to be willing to do anything to possess what isn't yours, which doesn't come naturally, just so you can be what you call somebody. Well, you think about these things. I mean, you really have to give them a thought. And so when you go all the way back to what is really going to work, peaceful protests have not worked. The violence haven't worked. Nothing has worked. So what's going to work? Ooh-wee. People are going to have to wake up. First of all, the question is, how do you truly wake the people up? How do you truly wake the people up? Well, in America, we point to some history, and I'll be the first one to admit I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't know. But this is what I heard, this is what I read. And people talk about it quite frequently throughout the history of life. They say that this earth, perhaps that I'm standing on right now, and you might be sitting on, reading or riding or driving or thinking or just enjoying your life, once had our ancestors. And they engaged themselves in life as we do. But they were, as the story goes, kind of like we are, crazy, uncontrollable, no direction, just foolish. And there was a message that went amongst them to tell them that they were just that. And if they didn't straighten up, they were going to be destroyed. The story goes that nobody believed that. They just kept on laughing and playing and having a good time, and doing what they do. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody had a good time. They were going through the same things that we go through every day. Pain and suffering as well. Lying, cheating, and stealing, all that stuff was still going on. To make a long story short, they say there was a rain that came. And it said it built up. I don't know if this is true now. I'm just relating to you a story that I heard, read, and hear people talk about all the time. And say this water just wiped over everybody. It's just a big flood. Say they had a ship built and a couple of things got a chance to go above the ship even. And so everything that wasn't above that ship, they perished. Now, I don't know if that story is true. They said it was going to happen again because mankind didn't learn then, and they probably won't learn now. And if they don't learn now, it's going to be because of a fire. Now, there's a lot of fires going on. And I'm sure if there's a breakout in America between people who don't have anything and people who think they got everything, by the time that war is in, it's going to all be gone. And if anybody's left, they're going to be standing there requiring the support of one another to be able to accomplish just any of the things that now are just a memory. So I say if people were smart, they might listen to a message like this and think about it and say, ooh-wee, how great am I? Who am I? Well, I must be special because I'm here. And I'm here because, well, that's this burning inside of me, something that I got to do, something that I came to do. And I feel free to do. I feel free because I know who I am. Who am I? I am the child of God. And there's, all of us, we're just children because we all belong to God. And as I only focus and give my attention to the God of that son up there, so do they. So there's no one above us, me, us, but God. And there's no one under me, us, but that which was rob us of truth. And that ain't gonna happen. So I believe what I'll do is I'll wake up and I'll choose. Now this might sound crazy, ladies and gentlemen. I know it sounds crazy, but wake up and choose life. Now, in a world like this, I just gave you the attitude of the military that takes an oath, grabs their weapon, and do whatever an order says do. They will kill, they die. If the order requires having something done, it gets done. Now that's man doing man's thing. Now, what more would it do to have a wisdom way beyond that of man, to understand your connection with reality, who you are? You just got through saying it. Can you take that same kind of oath that you're going to commit yourself to truth and honor truth, regardless of wherever you find yourself? Whatever valley you find yourself in, you're going to represent truth regardless of where it takes you, because it can only take you to freedom. I mean, can you do that? Well, if you can do that, then as the military guy that commits his life and gives his life to all of this, and you commit yourself and give your life to the love of that only God can give, come on now. Should I say more? I hope not. I'm going to leave that thought with you, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope that you got something out of it, because I really am grateful that you gave me the amount of time that you did. Once again, this is Eddie Marcus saying goodbye.